Hello and welcome, dear students. In this lesson, I'm going to be speaking about sleep hygiene, its importance, and how to achieve it. The single common factor amongst all forms of mental illness is an interruption to the sleep pattern. This might not come as a surprise if you are aware that sanity is a consequence of internal organization. And sleep is the primary form for people to organize the experiences of their waking state. So if you ever have stress and you go to bed, it's not uncommon to wake up feeling much better. That is because in our dreams, we look at our challenges and the chaos of our experience and can process it without having to employ our intellect. It is processed on a primal level. If your sleeping is interrupted between 24 and 48 hours, you'll begin to feel and experience disruptions to your perception. And if that period extends to 72 hours, you'll begin to experience symptoms of psychosis. So these are very serious effects. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if you were bedridden for that amount of time or far longer, you will not risk jeopardizing your mental or emotional well-being. And the reason for the disparity between these two states, the waking and the sleeping, is because sleeping is your original state, also referred to as your proto-state. So during pregnancy, the child is sleeping and resting. After they're born, they continue that pattern with small bouts of wakefulness that gradually extend further and further until they reach symmetry with the night-day cycle. If that pattern is interrupted, you'll begin to have pathology. The primary connection that informs us of our relationship relative to the sun and the moon is light. So exposure to the light of the sun and that of the moon informs us physiologically of where we are relative to them, and it calibrates itself accordingly. Modern technologies like telephone, television, computer screens introduce an exposure to radiation that is harmful to our biology's ability to calibrate relative to the sun. Much like a turtle is fooled by lights that might be emanating from the city and confuse them for stars or the moon, your nervous system reacts to the light of the technology in the same way. And unfortunately, the light from your screens is simultaneously too strong to allow your nervous system to downregulate at night so that you can sleep at a correct time, and too weak in the morning to simulate the sun to get you going and start your day. And this disparity causes a drift in your pattern of sleeping and waking. Limiting exposure to these radiations at the beginning and end of the day will help you in your process, especially if you expose yourself to the light of the sun, to recalibrate and begin waking at an early time and going to bed at an early time. How much light exposure do you need? I encourage you, as soon as you wake up, go out immediately and get as little as 2 minutes. If you can get 15 minutes, that's fantastic. Now, if you have a lot of overcast, you might need as much as 45 minutes for your system to begin to create positive changes to wake up at correct early times. If you're waking up and the sun is low on the horizon, it'll be comfortable to look at it. But once it's at a certain altitude and angle, it'll begin to hurt your eyes. Don't look at it if it hurts your eyes, but you can look in its general direction and get the same benefit. Looking at the sunrise helps inform you as to when to wake up. Looking at the sunset helps inform the physiology as when to go to bed. If you wake up and it's before sunrise, then turning on as many lights as possible helps also get your physiology going. It is wise to not rely on exposure to sunlight within your car or home, as the glass filters out certain spectrums of light that interferes with your body's ability to correctly respond to the light. If you use curtains or blinds to isolate your room at night to sleep better, it's wise to eliminate them so that you can, your body will become aware of when the sun begins to rise. It's also wise to limit the amount of light in the room and noise. Try to make it as quiet and peaceful as possible without insulating yourself from the sky. If you have sleep apnea, remediating this will be very helpful. Most sleep apnea is a result of being overweight. So focusing on nutrition will help fix that. If you have a propensity for snoring that isn't related to apnea, and you don't have any kind of medical issue with your breathing through your nose, then using medical tape on the lips to allow you to keep your breath through your nose will also be helpful. If you have a hard time going to bed, then not going to bed, but going to sleep while you're already in bed, focusing on the exhalation phase, extending it as long as you can, helps you transition from waking to sleeping. If you're into drinking coffee and tea or any other kind of food that has caffeine, using it as soon as you wake up will not allow your system to become sufficiently developed to wake up independently, which will become more difficult over time. So it's encouraged to wait about 90 minutes before consuming caffeine after waking up. If you consume caffeine after 2 o'clock, this might interfere with your ability to go to bed and sustain a restful sleep. Many people believe that caffeine helps them with their sleep, but all research that has looked at this topic have found that that is objectively not true. Yogis traditionally encourage people to sleep with their head oriented towards the east or to the south to help with sleeping restfully. I've found this to be true for myself as well. Practicing all of these things will create a positive trajectory towards your getting your circadian rhythm into calibration with the moon and sun cycle, and bring all of the other routines of your life into greater stability. I hope that you have success with this process, and I look forward to our future lessons. God bless.